So welcome to our special edition of You Are My Boro, and as you'll see, we've got a special guest for you today, none other than Middlesbrough star, England star, now star of Sky Sports as well, Mr. Stewart Downing. Cheers, Stewie. Thanks for coming on, mate.
No problem. I'm not sure about the star bit, but yeah.
Oh, hey, don't play yourself down. And we're also joined, as usual, by Dom Shaw, my fellow writer at The Echo. Hiya, Dom. You had a good week?
Hey up, lads. Yeah, all sound, Ty. Yeah, sound.
Fantastic. So we're going to be talking, as ever, about all things Boro. We'll have a chat with Stewie. We'll obviously have a look forward to the West Brom game at the weekend. But I guess we'll start, Stewie, by saying, you know, as a Boro fan, as someone who's grown up with the club, it must be happy times watching this Boro team at the minute, innit? You must be enjoying it.
Yeah, about time. Bit of optimism, I think, a bit of excitement. Obviously, still a long way to go, but he's given us hope, hasn't he, Michael? I think start of the season, I did expect them to do well. I went to the West Brom game, the first game, and I thought good signs the first half, especially. And I thought, we could do well here, and then just sort of didn't seem to click, did it? And obviously, as it went along, it was getting a bit uncomfortable, I think, for fans and obviously for Chris himself, Chris Wilder. So yeah, when the change came, I thought it looks like it's going to be one of them seasons where we just sort of consolidate again and maybe try again the year after. And but to be fair to Michael, amazing impact for someone obviously in his first job. And speaking to him, he actually says he's not really changed many things. He's just probably given the lads confidence.
Yeah.
Maybe changing a few positions of players, and it just shows you that sometimes you get that manager bounce and you get a bit of luck and people back in favour and things change.
You obviously played with him and know him well, Stewie. What's he like? What type of character is he?
I say quite quiet, quite calm. I used to speak to him quite, a bit in England. It was nothing major, just how you doing. And obviously, North East boys, you tend to click with your area, don't you? And I just found him very laid back, Michael. I think he's probably one of them who's probably watching, looking a lot, taking things in. Stevie Gerrard was pretty similar type of character. They're quite quiet lads that they sort of let the football do their talking. But yeah, I found him, very humble, quite genuine lad, and I think that's what everyone says around the club at the minute. All the staff and the people saying like, we can't believe sort of how humble he is for what he's done in the game and how I said, but he's always been that. He's never really changed, Michael. I've known him for say 20 odd years, and he's just exactly the same.
He was some player as well, wasn't
he? Yeah, he wasn't bad, was he? Yeah. he was a bit I think he's a bit underrated, I think, at times. But like you say, you don't have a career at Man United for that long if you're not that good. I think you'd probably find you out, wouldn't you, after 1 or 2 seasons, and you'd be on your bike. But he seemed to stay around for long, played a lot of games, won a lot of things. I think he was more rated by players than he was maybe by the outside world. I think, especially for England, he certainly should have had more caps than he did.
Did you have kind of times, Stewie, where a manager changed and for whatever reason, they don't necessarily turn everything upside down, but the mood changes kind of straight away and things just click straight away, you know what I mean? Because from the outside, like you say, Michael's made changes. He's obviously made tactical changes. There's been some personnel changes in January, but it's not like everything's been turned upside down.
No, I've seen it go both ways. Some manager comes in and they're quite adamant that they're doing this, and it does probably gets worse, or you go into and then you get some coming and you think, not changed a lot, but just what he says, the momentum goes up. And I think of like sort of top mate Gary Monk, that sort of like was diddling along, wasn't it, for 6 months, where we're going to go. I sort of seen signs where we might have changed, turned the corner around, obviously before he got sacked, that we might get a rhythm together. I think the thing with Gary is he probably didn't know his best 11. He had too many players. And that's maybe not a criticism of him, probably everyone, because he probably taught players he could leave, like myself, and we all end up staying. So it gets difficult for him. But then Tony Pulis comes in and just sort of rips up everything that Gary was sort of playing, and he plays his own way, Tony, but this is my way, or the sort of highway. And to be fair, we had a sort of decent run, and we got into the playoffs that season, and Villa beat us. And I can see it go both ways. I think obviously I was back in the fold anyway under Gary Monk, but I just felt I had his trust. You know what I mean? He liked me as a player. And that's how football's like. You can 1 minute out the door, 1 minute you're sort of flavour of the month, and then you see people like Martin Braithwaite who were bought to play under Gary Monk and then sort of shown the door by Tony. So football's a funny game. I've seen it work both ways, and obviously it's hard going in, especially middle of the season. But especially for a young manager like Michael, like you say, his first job, I think he's done it's even better the job he's done. I think because someone like Tony Pulis, He's been there, done it. He knows sort of what to say when he goes in. He's been there. He's been in them speeches a long, long time. Michael's going in, obviously unknown. He's picking up a bunch of players who are sort of on the floor. I know the confidence has gone a little bit. But I think that's the biggest thing. I've seen players just get better and better week after week.
Yeah.
Just on the subject of Pulis, because obviously Boro West Brom this weekend, he managed both clubs. What was he like to play for? And how was he different to maybe the expectations you had before he came in at Boro?
Yeah, he sort of tried to sign me a couple of times when I was leaving Liverpool for Stoke, and I never spoke to him direct, but I knew he liked me as a player. But when he comes in, you get that. I had a little bit with Big Sam when I went to West Ham. You're thinking, you're judging the book sort of by what you read and the cover, and long ball, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. But he was very obviously defensive. You can see the way he played, but he was very good with managing people, players. He was great with all the players. How he managed like myself, Johnny House, and all them lads. He just knew people inside out. I think like I say, very experienced. And I think generally the lads, like playing for him. Obviously, we all want to play attacking, expansive football and all what we did, but you've got to still say that he nearly did a decent job and took us up, didn't he? Obviously, Villa, I think if we could have went for him a little bit more, I think we could have beat them in the playoffs. We sort of sat back, didn't we, and let them sort of beat us 1-0, sort of petered out. But in terms of an all-round manager, great bloke. I didn't mind him. Obviously, he had to deal with me in the time when I couldn't play, and it was difficult, and how he managed that and sort of pulled me in for chat. I felt like his assistant manager at one point. He was like showing me teams. What do you think of this? Do you think I should go with this and play this? And I'm thinking, as long as I'm in it, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
But no, he was very clever like that. I think that was just obviously his years of experience of how to handle people. But I'll be honest, I generally quite liked him. If he didn't play, it probably was difficult if you weren't in the team, because you generally pick the team about 5 days before you played. So difficult week for some people who weren't in it.
And I mean, when we talk about the players getting a new lease of life, I mean, clearly the obvious example with that this season's been Chuba, hasn't it? Who at the start of the summer looked like he was out the door under Chris. Well, let's be honest, he was. Had Chris Wilder made the signings he wanted to before the season started, Chuba almost certainly wouldn't be here. He kind of had to play him in that last pre-season friendly. Then all of a sudden he's in and around at the start of the season, and the transformation's been incredible. I mean, what have you kind of made of him and the strides that he's made and the changes that Michael's made with him in terms of his positioning and the way he plays?
I think he was always a talented player, wasn't he? But sometimes you get a player goes to a club and you think it's not really going to happen for him here. Not really sure if it was the way they play, the styles. I'm just thinking it's not really clicking for him. But you see sort of glimpses, you think there's a player in there, but I just thought, I think it's probably gone too far now. He's probably going to have to move on. Especially as a striker, you've sort of got to go in at the ground running, and he never really got that run, did he? And obviously Neil was not having it one bit. I think Chris sort of had to play him because he had no one else. And in the start of the season, I thought, well, actually, he's been one of the better players, and they still seemed like they want rid of him. But maybe he just got that thing in his head where he's thinking, you know what, I'm gonna prove to you that this is my last chance to lose, sort of thing. Where am I going to go? That's probably better than here at the minute, because he was only going to go probably down because of his form. And I just think Michael came in and I think I asked him, I don't know if you've seen, I asked him a question on Sky, Sheffield United Borough, and said to him, what have you actually said to him or done to him? Because I watched him for 2 or 3 seasons, and that's not the player I've seen. It looked like sort of, his brother was playing or something like that. He just looked like he had no confidence. And he said, not a lot really, just told him he was talented. I thought he could play another position as a 10. I just wanted him to play with freedom and sort of give him a run of games. And I think that's the big thing that I learned from it when he said, I'd give him a run of games. Knowing he's got the manager's trust, I think he thought he could try things, not thinking, well, if I don't play well today or score, I'm probably not going to play for 6 weeks. So it's only a little thing, but it's amazing when how it can change a player.
And just on the back of that, I mean, kind of 2 things at time with you. When you were at West Ham, obviously you moved in. Sam played you, didn't he, in that number 10 role? And also you've talked in the past about he put his arm around your shoulder and got the best out of you again. So I guess you can relate on it in a couple of ways there.
Yeah, and obviously when I come from Liverpool, I got back in Brendan's plans playing and that, but you sort of have that feeling that you're thinking he's always looking for the next player. I always got that feeling that he was obviously had a lot of money to spend. He could buy probably who he wanted at the time. So I just probably needed Sam at the time when I needed him, if you know what I mean. He just brought me in and just basically said, you're going to play. is obviously you've got to play well in that, but you're going to play. And I just knew I had his confidence. He said to me, I think he can be a midfield player. I think as you get older and you start to slow down, like a technical football, I think he could play in the middle of a 3 in midfield in my system. I think he could play as a number 10 because you can find the ball. And I was like, whoa, no one's ever really said that to me. Gareth Southgate played me for a little run as a number 10 now and again, and he sort of thought I'd end up as a midfield player, which you generally do when you obviously slow down. You end up going back one, don't you, midfield or left back. Left back was not for me, so the midfield one was better. But yeah, you just listen, don't you? Thinking, I've got the manager's trust here, and he just said to me, well, when you come in, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'd like to play for England again. And he was like, well, we'll make that work then. Let's just go for that. Yeah. Sort of simple as that. And I was like, right. He goes, work hard, be the best player, and show me why I brought you here. And that's all he ever said to me. Never ever. To be fair, the lads used to give me a bit of stick because he was probably the only one I was the one he never shouted at. And it was like the son of and all, and the crack you get with it. But he knew how to manage players. I think he thought he'd get the best out of me by putting an arm around me, making me feel wanted, where sort of like you have a Kevin Nolan who probably thrived off a bit of a bollocking. And he was the leader and the captain. So his management of people was probably the best I'd seen. And that's the biggest skill, I think, how you manage 25 players, because we're not all the same, are we?
Yeah. And interesting on that, because I was at Michael's press conference yesterday, and he was saying that one of the things that he thinks has made it easier for him in terms of the first job is the senior pros that he's got around him within that dressing room. So your Johnnies, Tommy Smith, he name drop, Darragh Lenihan, Matt Crooks, people like that, who actually A, have bought into what he's trying to do, but B, have set an example for the younger lads who might have been looking and wondering what's going on here. They say, well, no, this is the way you carry on. This is what you want. I mean, how important is that within a dressing room? And how did you, within your career, when you were young, how important were those older senior players in terms of, setting what the standards for what you had to do?
Yeah, I think I've been very lucky in that sense. I think every dressing room I went in, apart from the Premier League season when Middlesbrough the year we went down, was full of proper senior pros, good people. Not even young players as well. I just obviously starting out with Gareth and Hugo and Colin Cooper, these lads when I first came through was, well, you didn't dare step out of line anyway because you'd have a gang of them on top of you. You imagine Jimmy Hasselbank, they're quite, big characters, big personalities, and we were sort of put in line very, very, very quickly. Not that we never stepped out of line because we were petrified of them, really. They were big men, big characters. But as I went along, and obviously then I become the seniors, and you speak to managers, and it's amazing how much they look to their senior players. A lot of managers get jobs and go, I've took this job because of what I've seen in the dressing room. And generally it'll be their senior players, the good people, the good characters. Because if you take over a dressing room where your seniors are not very good people, you're probably onto a hiding because they're affecting everyone around them. And that's not only players, it's probably the staff and everyone around them. And I think Michael's looked. He'll know, obviously, because Woody's been there with Johnny Howson, super pro, isn't he? Obviously, I don't know Chuba and these type of lads. I played with Darragh Lenihan, really good character, captain like. So all of a sudden, he's got 4 or 5 leaders, and 4 or 5 captains, and then you're thinking, I've got half a chance here. That's what I would be thinking as personally anyway, but I'm sure Michael's obviously done his own work as well.
Yeah. And from one extreme to the other, you've got Hayden Hackney, who's just starting out. You've been that young lad breaking in. How difficult is it to, once you've had that initial blast of kind of, 4, 5, 6 games, how difficult is it to maintain that high standard when there's maybe the expectation?
Especially being the local lad, because they'll look at him obviously much more. He'll probably get that as he gets along, and the minute he's sort of on a crest, anyway, he probably thinks it's quite easy this game, isn't it? Like, he generally plays well, doesn't he? Most games, I think playing alongside Johnny is perfect for him. But yeah, I know Michael likes him a lot as a player. I think he sees probably characteristics that he had, controlling games and stuff like that. So yeah, I think he's on a bit of a crest. He'll obviously will have a dip at times, and I think Michael will know, and that's when he'll probably take him out and put him back in. And I can remember think back to Steve McCann, used to leave me out and put me in, and he used to drive me mad. But I'm playing well, and you're young lad, and you think you're sort of invincible, don't you? But you realise you've got a long career ahead. He's trying to manage you, keep you right, and and you've got to think, like you said, expectations. You're not always going to play well, and it's just about managing the player. But I think he seems quite mature, doesn't he, for his age? I think he's sort of been fast tracked a little bit and got thrown in, but probably a good time because he got. I remember I went to the game. I think he played Birmingham at home. Leo's took over that game, and he was the best player by a mile. And I think he's just thought, I've got a chance here, and that's what all young players want. They need a chance, don't they? And I think, if he keeps his feet on the ground, I think he'll have a good career, and he's got someone in charge of him who's perfect for him.
And when you talk, we talk about how great it is to see a local lad like Hayden coming through, and obviously Boro's always had that. But also behind the scenes, you've got Woody, obviously, as kind of Michael's right-hand man. You've got Grant there in and amongst the first team coaching group at the minute. I mean, now that you're kind of a little bit further detached from it, do you think that's important that a club has that? Because Boro's always probably had it more than most, in fairness.
Yeah, we've always had that, or someone around the even academy that sort of attachment to the club.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we sort of lost that for a bit, didn't we? And I look back at, obviously starting from the crank years when I came in, for then it just felt like it went sort of like a Spanish feel of a club, didn't it? It didn't feel like the club I'd left the first time around. I used to always say that it just feels a bit different, which was always going to be different because, like you said, all the players had left, most of the staff had left, but. Yeah, it just felt a bit different. I just think gradually the club is sort of trying to bring that back. Maybe that's why they employed Woody again with Michael. Obviously, Grant's behind the scenes, like you said. Katz has been there. I've been doing bits, but even people, behind that, Tinks and Courage and lads like that have got affinity for the club. They've been there a lot of years, haven't they? So, I mean, I'm not saying overflow with sort of job for the boys, but.
No.
It's sort of, you need someone who the club, and I think Michael taking Woody is perfect for him because he's been there. He probably knows half the players. He knows the club. He knows the chairman, how to deal with him. Mm-hmm. He could give Michael loads of tips on basically maybe don't say that, or maybe don't ask that, or it could be a little thing, but it might help him a lot because like I say, he's new to the game, isn't he? And he's going in blind, and he doesn't know a lot of people. So I think that was a bit of a good appointment.
When you were starting out, because when you speak to kind of young lads who've come through, probably more like that second youth cup team, and when you speak to young lads and they all talk about how, you were the shining light for them, really, you showed that a young lad can get in and break in the team. Who was that for you then when you were coming through? Who were you looking up to in the years above, and who in the coaching team would you kind of lean on or look up to?
In terms of like local lad, you mean?
Yeah,
or just sort of anybody.
Well, both local lad, but kind of anyone in the first team fold as well, I guess.
I just think at that time it was difficult breaking because obviously when I went in full time, Brian Robson was in charge, and if you look at it, we probably weren't going to get a chance. We might have probably been sold on as because Brian sort of bought experienced players, didn't he? They were full of world class players at the time as well. So I think just Steve McLaren's probably opened a meeting, give us a sort of we've got a chance here. He just sort of come in and said, I've watched you play for a couple of weeks. There's some good talent here. And by the end of the season, 2 or 3 years, will definitely play in the first team. And I was thinking, wow, that's only in like 8 months' time. That's like, we're only playing under 17s and it's weird. And then obviously within a couple of weeks, we've gone from U team, me and David Murphy got jumped straight into the reserves, sort of leapfrogged the 19s in a way. And then we trained with the first team. And I thought, we must be one of the 1 or 2, me and him, because we sort of got fast tracked. We travelled every week with the first team, didn't play. And we just getting pulled into meetings, and Steve McLaren was literally saying, watch Mendieta, watch Zenden, watch what they do, how they play, and this little stuff like that. And you're thinking, okay, I don't think I'm going to play, sort of thing here. It's mental, and I think that was it. And I was like, oh, he obviously likes me, and this is what we're. I don't think there was anyone sort of in the first team I thought I want to sort of be like him. At the time, obviously Janino and people like that were different, obviously players to me. Alan Moore, I remember him many years before that, but I just thought, I just need a chance. And to be fair, it's difficult getting that chance. I mean, at one point, Murph was leaving. I was probably going to get sold after my loan to Sunderland. Still didn't think McLaren was sort of... I think he liked me as a player. He just probably didn't see me as ready to play then when at that time, obviously, he bought Zenden and didn't need to play. There's no hiding that. And I think you need a bit of luck. He was out of form. Mendy gets injured. I get a run. And then it's, like I've just said about Hayden Hackney, you've got to take your chance. And it's as cutthroat as that. And we sort of say to the young lads now in the youth team, we can sit here and talk and practice every day about your game. Once you get that chance, you've got to take it because you're sort of out my hands. We sort of coach them, learn and pass them on. And then it's if Michael sees him and doesn't like him, it's as ruthless as that. There's not many people who will get through. But I think with a manager like him, I'm sure he's had meetings with the young players to say if you're good enough, you'll play. And I think playing Aiden every week, I think that's probably the message to the youth team, isn't that? If you're good enough, you'll play.
And we'll touch on the West Brom game in a second, but just finally, kind of this bit of the chat. I mean, how are you enjoying everything at the minute? How's the coaching going? How's the broadcasting going? How's everything? How's life for Stewart Downing at the minute?
Going quick. I've just been saying, like early on, I've been retired, nearly 18 months, 2 years now, so fast.
Yeah.
Just in that time, just obviously just sort of relaxing, done my A license, had another baby, got a bit bored, as you do, and so it's been busy. I'll be honest, it's been busy. Like you say, obviously on your coaching courses, they take a lot of your time up. Yeah. And then I was doing the bits of media, which I never thought I'd sort of do. I just sort of got asked to go on Sky a couple of times and do Boro games. I thought, yeah, I'll give it a try, and if I like it, if don't, then I can fall obviously back on the coaching. But it's been really good. It's a bit of an eye opener. It's different, but I quite like it because it keeps you involved in the game. You're still talking about it. You're still getting to games and watching them. Yeah. And then the coaching just came about. I just seen Cradle at the stadium. We had a little chat at the game one day, and he just said, "Why don't you come in and do a bit? And if you like it, great. If you don't, then at least you know you've tried and you've." Yeah. And I thought, well, I did all that time doing my licenses, so I might as well give it a go and not just sort of put it in the box. Yeah. But yeah, it's been great. It has been good. It's different. But I think once you're out on the grass and you're coaching people and you're sort of trying to help them, it gives you that little bit of a buzz.
What does the future look like then? Will it be more punditry, coaching, management?
Honestly, I don't know. I think it's the same as probably players' opportunity, isn't it? I think I listen to loads of lads. Some of them top players can't even get a job, can't get interviews, can't get in. Yeah, that works both ways. That is even the media and stuff like that. It's I think it's just opportunity. I'm at Middlesbrough. If someone comes up with that youth team, I'll look at it, and if I think I can benefit it, then I'll go for it. But I don't just want to be sort of going in there just thinking, well, I'll just do it because it's a job, and I want to do it because I'm good at it, or I can help. But I think come the summer, that might be a discussion I have with the club if they see me as a coach, or if they employ other people. I'll have to make a decision.
So West Brom this weekend. I mean, you know, they were obviously, they had a great run. A couple of months back. They haven't been so fantastic recently. I think it's 1 win in 5. I mean, it's one of them where, you know, all things being equal, Boro can go there with plenty of confidence, can't they? The way that they play it. I mean, you know, there's no reason at the minute why they can't go anywhere and fancy themselves. You can win at Bramall Lane like they did the other week, then you can certainly win at the Hawthorns. Yeah,
and I think that's the attitude and probably the squad is at the minute. I think it doesn't really matter. We can beat anyone. It's amazing it when you win a few games, but how your mind changes. If you lose a couple, you're thinking, I might have to take a draw.
Where's what coming from? Yeah,
it's amazing. It's all obviously mentally in your head, but I think just the way they play and they'll fancy the chances. I said to Dom, obviously, just before we start on the show, that difficult West Brom, because you don't know which team's going to turn up, and they obviously had that great run, and then they had a little bit of a dip. Then they thought the manager was leaving, and then now he's staying, and then so West Brom obviously on the day can be dangerous. They can hurt you. So I think you'll know that, Michael, that they're a good team. They're still in obviously with a chance of the playoffs and stuff like that. So, you know, even if we went there, I'd expect us to go there and win. But even if we got a point, I don't think it'd be too bad.
No,
I think James Morrison is on the coaching staff there, or he certainly has been. How good was he as a player? Because he's perhaps probably didn't get the credit he deserved, really, or he's not looked back on, is he, as one of the best, when probably should be, really.
Yeah, he got in quite quick, and Mozza played in some big. He played in the UEFA Cup final, didn't he? If you think back, but he's been a bit. I think he's a bit unlucky. I think obviously when Gareth came in, he was obviously looking at both in the squad, and Mozza had sort of been in and out, and then he sort of went for Gary O'Neill, didn't he? And paid big money for him to play a right wing, and I thought Gary was sort of a midfield player than a winger. And then we sort of lost Katz and him around at a similar time, if I remember right. And I thought, we've let him go for really cheap there, Mozza. Like, I think, was it £1 million or something at the time? You're thinking, and we paid £5 million for Gary O'Neill, who did all right for us, but I thought Mozza was the better player to play on the right. He was more, obviously, to get you more of a goal, probably. And he's still a young player, and I think there was still lots of potential there with him. So I don't know if that was a bit of a miss for Mozza, or a bit of a bad decision, I think, because I liked Mozza. I thought he was a good player, and he could have went on and had a good career at the Boro, because, you know, he didn't do too bad, did he, when he played?
He had a great career, didn't he, at West Brom?
Yeah, and then, like you say, and a lot of it was in the Premier League, so it wasn't as if he, you know, people think, well, he wasn't good enough for Middlesbrough, but, you know, he played in the Premier League for 10 years, so whatever it was, you know, he must have been half decent, mustn't he, because he'd probably find his level in that first couple of years and maybe drop down the Championship, but he never played it. And you look at West Brom, I think he generally played 90% of the time. So yeah, I don't know if that was a bit of a bad decision on our part.
And so just to wrap up then, top 2, do you fancy it for Boro this season? There's been all the talk. Michael Carrick will not go near answering it. We've tried every which way but loose. So next time you're on Sky, if you can get him to answer that question, you're far better than us. But what do you reckon? What do you fancy?
I asked him in the tunnel after the game. He's obviously dead, obviously playing it calm on that. I said, "Come on, Michael, it's on, isn't it? Come on." And he's like, no, long way to go. And I said, that's a proper manager's answer. That
I was going to say, at least he's the same with you as he is with us.
I said, come on. I said,
he's nailed that.
We played together. We're mates for 20 years. You can tell me, come on, he's on. I won't tell anybody. And he's like, no. But I get what he means because, and you look at the fixtures, obviously, it was a great win. And then I thought, he must be thinking this, he's only human. He must be thinking, if we can get through the next sort of 4 or 5 games where we've got a few at home, haven't we? I think Sheffield United have 4 out of 5 away or 3 out of 5. And obviously Millwall was one they've lost one. So I'm thinking if we get through that and they're losing games and we win and we're right on their tail, then it's on. Yeah. But I think he might think if they get through that and they still have that cushion of the points, then it might be very difficult. It depends how Sheffield United react in the next couple of games. And I know Heckenbottom's saying he's not very worried, but he must be because I think it was the manner and how we beat them. It wasn't like we just beat them. We battered them really second half, and they were a little bit all over the place. And when you speak to the Sheffield United people after the game, they said no one's come here and done that to us. We've sort of bullied teams, even when they've been better with the ball. We've sort of bullied them and won the game. But he said, wow, that was like a battering second half. So I think it could be the way, as it affected him in a way of thinking, wow, Middlesbrough are a team, you know what I mean? They're the real deal. And I think it'll go to the wire. I just think in the next 3 or 4 games it'll tell us if we're going to catch them or not.
Yeah. And even if Borough don't catch them, from what we've seen, especially in the last few months, there'd certainly be nothing to fear in the playoffs, would there?
No, I think when I speak to like Woody and Michael, and obviously, like you said, if we finish 4th or 5th, it doesn't matter what it is, we're in the playoffs. We look like we're in a relegation battle at one point. So it's still an amazing season. It's just that I think when it comes to that point, if we did get in the playoffs, I think Michael and them will probably have to say to the players, listen, don't be too disappointed that we've sort of not finished second. Because some people obviously missed out on that second run, and then they're horrendous in the playoffs because they
have to lift themselves again after
it's like, I'm all in 46 games for like now we've got to play Sunderland again or whatever twice. But I think Michael will think, listen, lads, whoever's in that playoffs, we beat them, we can play them again. It's just another 2 games to get to a final. So it'll be how he mentally obviously gets that. But I think from the position we've come to where we've ended up, even if we do in the playoffs, I think the players must still think we've done all right here. We did all right.
That's the bigger picture, isn't it? And I think you're right. I think that's, in a way, probably why Michael doesn't want to build up this battle for second, if you like, too much, because it would be, it would be ridiculous, really, if Borough were to miss out, potentially through no fault of their own, if Sheffield United just carry on winning, and yet everyone's feeling a bit deflated, when, as you rightly said, they were 21st when, Chris Wilder was struggling. Yeah,
I think that's what, behind the scenes, he might be saying, him and Woody and people like, listen, keep on the lads, we can catch Sheffield United. All that will be going on, surely, because it won't be played down within the 4 walls. But I think obviously when they go to the players, it'll be keep calm, keep winning. Obviously you have to play, because like you said, if you start going, listen, lads, we're going to go second, we're going to get, and then you end up 3rd or 4th, it's like, oh God, now what happens? Because the manager thought we were going to finish. We sort of failed, and you know how that plays on. I think he'll think, listen, lads, if we end up in the playoffs, no problem, we'll win the playoffs. If we finish second, even better. So I think that's sort of, and obviously we're laughing about trying to get Michael to jump on the Borough bandwagon with us, but I understand what he's doing, because you've got to be very careful how you sort of dress after the players, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, listen, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much, Stewie. We really appreciate you taking your time out on a Friday afternoon for us. Get back to the little one.
What else better to do is it on a Friday?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Stewie. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Exactly, and hopefully we'll catch up again in the summer when we're talking about planning for the Premier League. But good luck with the coach and good luck with the media and everything, and all the best, mate.
Cheers, lads. Thank you.
Cheers, Stu.
Bye-bye, mate. Bye.